Now she's in primer. You can see what I've done to the car. All the lights work. Everything's functional. You can see she idles real well. Okay, so here's the lights. I've got these really nifty little fog lights up here. 20-watt halogens. Got the headlights, the blinkers and running lights. All wired up. Front fender, this has been widened here with steel, about 1.5 inches on the front fender. The running board has been widened as well, about 1.25 inches in the back here. The rear fenders have been widened about 3.5 inches. I had to specially design the rear tail light bulb to house 3 halogen bulbs. I've got some little baffles in the tailpipes. Try to keep it quiet, fairly quiet. I have a high stop light here. So when you depress the brake pedal, this thing will light up as well as the other lights. I actually have this Shelby style gas cap on here, and it has a little chrome cap that goes over it, but it's got this regular vented cap in here right now. So I also have the caps and the wheels here to make it look like a VW, kind of, sort of. This right here is a condenser for the air conditioning.
Condenser for the AC, right. and the one behind it is the main radiator.
This is the main radiator, right? Out of a Fiero.
Okay, and then what about that canister right back there with the black?
This is power steering, obviously.
Power steering.
This is my overflow tank. This came out of a Lexus.
Lexus overflow.
Right. This is the factory fuse box. Small battery out of a Honda. Rebuilt booster. Rebuilt master cylinder.
The Toyota anti-lock braking.
It's all Toyota. It's all plugged into the wiring harnesses and everything. Then I've got my clutch unit over there, which is a hydraulic clutch. That came out of the MR2 as well. All the wiring down in here, down inside here, there is a ABS brake unit right there, and a electric power steering pump down in here.
And then all the wiring back behind the cowl.
Yeah, all the wiring goes down under through the firewall, comes up here on the inside.
And where is the AC compressor?
The compressor's on the motor in the back.
And then the condenser is?
Right here.
Okay, so we're looking at the motor on the Bug, which is a ATS 2.2 liter 4-cylinder engine.
Stroker motor.
Stroker motor. And where is the turbo on this car?
Well, the turbo is back here in the back. I built this custom plate.
And the exhaust?
And I routed my exhaust down through here and up through the back. It's got 2 flex connectors on it to keep it, because this is a solid mount exhaust.
Solid mount?
Solid mount exhaust, solid mount turbo.
Where is the wastegate for the turbo?
It's right there. Is there a wastegate?
Right down behind the turbo?
Right there.
And the blow-off valve?
Blow-off valve is here. This is the intake. Coming out of the Borg-Warner S200 turbo.
S200. Going up into, how big is that throttle body?
70 millimeter,
70 millimeter, 3-inch on a custom intake.
Yeah, custom intake plenum.
Okay. With custom runners, it's got custom rectangle runners going into the factory head. Right,
and a short uptake here on the
for the intake of the air cleaner. Now, is that going to be ducted?
No, I will. I'm thinking about pointing this down towards the ground to get cooler air flow.
And there's no intercooler on the car.
No, I don't think we really need one here. It's a short intake, and it goes straight into the intake plenum. The intake plenum is also separated off the block with a piece of phenolic resin block there that I got from ATS, so it helps keep a lot of the heat out of the plenum.
And the turbo is removed from the engine by quite a distance, not like a rear mount, traditional rear mount, but it is removed.
Right, it's about 4 feet downstream of the header.
So you'll just keep an eye on the air intake temperatures.
Right, I've got all the sensors from the Vi-Pec computer.
And then you can see the transfer case, the transaxle for the MR2.
Yeah, there's the axle down there. Yeah, so this is all MR2 gear.
And then
all stock MR2.
Serviceable from inside the vehicle.
Yeah, that panel comes off in here. Right here, this panel comes off pretty easy. It's got thumb screws all the way around it. So you can take that off and get to the engine real easy.
And then the exhaust system after it exits the turbo.
So the exhaust is right here. It's a stainless. Goes into my wideband O2 sensor.
No muffler.
There's no muffler. I do have some baffles built inside here. And also coming out here on the pipes, I got some baffles.
To the custom.
Yeah, custom baffles that I had to build. And there's the underside of the exhaust.
Okay.
There's a few other things to look at in here. This little white device down here is a oil return pump, which I needed because of the remote location of my turbo. It pumps it straight through up a 10 AN line, pumps it back up here, and it pumps it right back up into the oil pan.
And the return line, grab the return line there.
The return line's down on the bottom. That's one. That's one that goes through the pump. This is the supply. This is the supply line. This is a 4 AN line that comes from the supply on the block of the motor. Okay, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the fuel system here. I have 750 cc Siemens fuel injectors and a large big bore Wolfcats fuel rail, and I've got number 6 line as a feed and number 6 line as a return. I go through an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator back to the 90 psi Aeromotive in-tank pump. So it's a pretty good fuel system, seems to run pretty well. I have an electric sending unit right here. Let's see, right there, there's an electric sending unit right on the fuel pressure regulator. So that tells me fuel pressure up on my dashboard. Well, these 3 gauges right here, these are aftermarket gauges.
What are they showing?
One of them is my boost gauge right here. First one's boost gauge. This one right here is my fuel pressure gauge, and this one right here is my AFR, or my wideband controller.
Wideband.
Right. This right here is the head unit for the little aftermarket AC system. Here, these are the vents. I'm going to have 2 more vents. One's going to be down here, right here, and the other one's going to be down over on that corner over there. So I'll have 4 vents in here. This is the factory gauge pod out of the MR2. I had to modify it quite a bit to get it to mount up behind here, but I'm using little springs to hold it up against the back of the panel. I got a little piece of cheap plastic right now in there.
So that's all
change
mounted well, just needs finished out on trim.
Oh no, there's a lot to do. I have to cap the ends. I have to finish putting these 2 switches in. This is a dimmer switch, and this is the fog lamp switch. Those have to go into the same panel as the vent.
Toyota.
Right. All this stuff's original Toyota. I've got yeah, and right here I've got the hazard switch and the original Toyota clock. It's just hanging in here right now until I get around to building the interior.
Then the steering column is out of the Toyota?
Yeah, the whole thing's out of the Toyota.
The tilt wheel works?
Right, see how the lights work, the blinkers work, and you can listen to the hazard switch. You can see on the dashboard. The hazard lights work.
And then it's got tilt wheel on it?
It's got tilt wheel, it's got cruise control, which I don't have functional right now. I had an airbag, but I've taken the airbag out. I have the horn wired up. I have the windshield wipers wired up here, and then everything works and functions fine.
Through all the Toyota controls?
All the Toyota stuff, right. I had to swap the Toyota motor in the windshield washer unit. and I just put the Toyota motor in there, and it works just fine. I'll show that later. The shifter here is a solid mount here to a solid console with the park brake.
And where did the shifter come from?
All of this is the Toyota.
It's out of the Toyota.
Yeah, everything's out of the Toyota, the whole thing.
And then it's run by a Vi-Pec.
And it's run
aftermarket.
Yeah, it's run by a Vi-Pec aftermarket computer unit, which is right here behind the front seat. You can see it's right there. It's mounted to the inside sheet metal of the VW Bug. All the wiring and tubes and everything go back through the firewall on the side into the engine compartment.
That's your fuel cell back there?
My fuel cell's down here, right under this. Fuel pump, everything is in here. A filter, all this stuff is inside this box right here. It's real easy to remove though. There's just little screws around the whole thing. This is the engine cap right here, and you can see that it's just a piece of bent aluminum. It's got a piece of 2500 rated heat shield on the back, and it's got this Dynamat material on the front here, and it's got little thumb screws that hold it in place. So you can actually take this out and put it back in by hand. So that makes it easy to get to the, easy to access the motor.
And your fuel filler is going up right through the back of the car?
Right back here. The fuel filler neck goes right up through a tube that goes into the box down here and goes up to the outside of the car. There's also a roll bar here. It's a functional roll bar. It's bolted with 7 bolts across to the back rear strut link. Comes up here, all the way to the top
behind
here.
The seats.
Just behind the seats, and the seat belts attached to them. It's kind of hard. It's getting a silhouette on it, but the seat belts are attached to that. Roll bars in. Basically, I just need to build the interior. This is the interface to the Vi-Pec computer that controls everything in the car. I just start the car so that it'll load up.
Okay, the Vi-Pec software is coming up.
Okay. Let's go look at the fuel map. This is the active fuel table. Right now that we have a wide band on this, but it won't kick in until it hits 50 on the exhaust or the engine coolant temp. It needs to hit 50 before that'll start. Okay, now we went out of the warm-up cycle, and we're into the loop cycle now.
So it's reading 11.3, 11.2 on the wideband right now?
It's reading it, but it's not utilizing the wideband until it hits 50 on the exhaust. I mean on the engine coolant temperatures. Once this hits 50, which it's going to do real quick.
And when that little black square moves on the screen when you rev it.
This right here, this is the fuel cell that you're running in right now.
So go rev it up again.
And you can see the little, I don't know if you can see the little red on the camera or not, but that's a little tracer. It kind of shows you which cells you're going through, so if you're having issues, you can bump a cell up or you can bump a cell down. You notice these are on here are all real low. Okay, now it's reading the wideband because it just hit 52.
So it's just going into a closed loop with the wideband.
Right.
So rev it up.
It's going to try to match 14.7.
So that's the fuel cells as that black square is moving.
Right, as this moves around.
Shows you where it is going.
What the wideband does is it helps adjust the fuel cell. Well, I need to adjust these fuel cells probably more. It's I've got it running pretty good at the moment. It revs up a little while, then it'll go back into an idle. This is the engine coolant temperature. This is the intake air temperature, and this is the pressure inside the plenum. A lot of things you can look at here. You have auxiliary, you have analog inputs, and those analog inputs are going to be for like an engine coolant temperature. So when you have an analog input, it changes a resistance on a sensor, and that will give a voltage of 0 to 5 volts. When that is read by the computer, it tells it this right here, this number right there. The inlet air temperature, the wideband's on. throttle position sensor. It has to know where the throttle is at all times. There's a lot of other things you can do with this thing. It's really incredible.